Okay, so where do we start? Do we talk about the movies we hated, the movies we liked, or do we talk about the films that won?
Let's start with the films that won.
Okay.
Let's just go down. So we've got the trusty little program now. So here we go. So do you know what? Let's do it working up to the thing. So the Silver Bear for Outstanding Artistic Contribution went to Dovlatov by Alexei German Jr. So yeah. You look at me like I just asked you to do math.
They saw the movie. Sadly, I was in Milan at the end of the festival.
Right,
so I didn't see anything.
you abandoned us. I loved Dovlatov. I thought it was one of the strongest in a very, very weak competition year. I thought it was one of the strongest films on show. It kind of imbues the audience in this kind of period haze, and I was completely engaged with it. And I have to admit, to give it just the artistic contribution just felt like a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah,
to me.
absolutely. I thought it could have made at least the script or even best actor, because I really liked him. I've forgotten his name already. Sorry about that.
I have as well. Yeah, but that's fine.
But he was.
But we liked the movie.
Yeah,
They liked the movie.
Yeah,
I liked it, even though it was very beige.
That's it. The color palette was very, very beige, but I was completely won over by it, and I thought a Prix du Jury, a kind of the Silver Bear. I know something better. I thought this was a little bit of a letdown for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, best screenplay actually seamlessly transitioning into that was Museum.
Yeah, why
Wait,
that?
where was that movie from?
That was South American.
It was from Alonso Ruiz Palacios.
Yeah.
Was that the movie from Paraguay?
No, it wasn't. This was the film with Gael Garcia Bernal about the museum heist, but a lot of people are calling it a heist film. It's not so much that. I mean, it has this kind of these two young students who rob some artifacts, some Mayan artifacts.
Very important artifacts.
Absolutely, and then go on the
cultural
run.
heritage.
That's it, and then go on the run with it. And it talks about, I thought, colonialism and heritage in a very interesting way.
Yes, this is what the director said at the press conference afterwards, that it isn't a real heist movie, but it's more about personal responsibilities, also personal disappointments, because there's this whole father-son story in it, which is also a very important part of the movie. So yeah, I quite liked it, but I don't think that it will be around forever.
No, it's also quite emblematic of a competition selection as a whole.
Yeah.
That essentially this is a fine film. It's very well made, very, very well acted, and the script is good.
Yeah, and super camera. I really loved the pictures.
Yeah, the cinematography.
Full of colour this time.
Oh god, the DOP was on fire. The thing is that I can't deny this was like in any other, outside of the Berlinale bubble, it's a 3-star film. Within the bubble, it's a 4-star film. And essentially this year you kind of had to settle for something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You really had to settle for just something that was passably entertaining, and that's it. That's where, I mean, and I'm not hard to please. Give me wine and some unpopped bubble wrap, and I'm happy. Speaking of which,
Cheers.
cheers to your to your good health.
And better movies.
Anyway, Silver Bear for Best Actor went to Anthony Bajon, for his performance in La Prière by Cédric Kahn.
I wasn't there. I
Right,
can't say anything about the movie.
I mean, it is the story about a young man who goes from a certain form of extremism to another. So he's a drug addict, and he goes into this kind of religious fervour. It's very well acted. I can't deny that I've seen this performance done by countless French actors before, young French actors. This was not a bad idea to award this prize to him, but I think Dovlatov, the main actor in Dovlatov, was a far superior choice.
So,
Best Actress, Anna Braun for Las Herederas, The Heiresses.
Where was that movie from?
that was the one from Paraguay.
Okay.
From Paraguay.
It's
Now
the
this
first
is...
one ever. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, the first one ever in the Berlinale competition.
Yes, that's true, yeah. So essentially it's the story of a young woman who is picked from her district to fight in something called the Hunger Games. No,
You're totally in the wrong movie.
Hunger Games.
Now it's about an elderly lesbian couple.
Yes.
Struggling with financial crisis, and one of them is sent to prison because of fraud, I think, and the other one has to make a way around, and she's very inclusive and starts a taxi system, and
Well, she also prefers to be kind of by herself, very withdrawn from the world, in front of her easel, and she meets well,
English speaker here.
right.
He's a native one, not me.
Christ, it's been a long festival, and my brain is mush. She meets this young woman who is the granddaughter or the daughter of the daughter. You're right, and this woman kind of reignites a spark and makes her want to connect with the world again.
Yeah. And what I like about it is how they really show it, and when the rooms get more and more open, and it's really a film about women, because you only see the man and the background, never see one properly, only kind of shadow people, so it's really a woman's film.
Yeah, the men are on the periphery, so it feels also like quite a timely film. I enjoyed it. I thought it's one of those films, unfortunately, which we saw quite early on in the festival. I think it was the first day, and it was a decent start. But again, by the end of the festival, you're so shagged out that
Just done, wiped out. I was drinking champagne so much.
Balls deep in the cocktails, were we? While we were slaving away in the screens. There we go. Best director. Mr. Wes Anderson for Isle of Dogs. Now,
Wes Anderson got the silver bear for best director.
Best
director.
For best director. So, I don't know. I mean, it was from the get-go. I think we all knew that Wes Anderson would go away with something. Isle of Dogs was one of the best reviewed films. It's not, for my money, one of his best ones. Even in his 2 stop-motion films, I still preferred Fantastic Mr. Fox. However, again, within the context of the competition, it was a very, very entertaining film, and I enjoyed it an enormous amount. What did you think?
I didn't watch it.
Oh!
Wow!
The biggest movie of the festival, someone here didn't watch it.
I say, big.
Sorry. Do I have to leave now?
No, that's fine. So yeah, I have to admit, I thought that he could have potentially won Best Script with Isle of Dogs. I don't see why director particularly, but
An animated film, but
Okay.
Alfred Bauer Prize. Now this is the prize that opens for new perspectives. Now this was also given to Las Herederas, which I found quite baffling. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And yes, and I thought this would have gone to Utea.
Yes.
Absolutely, because this was really a movie that showed new perspectives.
Yeah. I think Utoya, this is the film by Eric Popper, which follows the tragic events that happened in 2011 on the island of Utoya, where I think it was 69 or 70 young people were were murdered by an extremist whose name I shall not mention. It's quite... The more I think about it, the more I enjoy the film. It's very, very strong. It features a 72-minute long take, uninterrupted, completely breathless shot where you follow one character in particular, this young girl who's trying to look for her sister. I thought its use of subjective camera and also objective, it kind of flip-flopped between the two, so you are completely thrown into the depths of hell with these characters, with this particular girl. And the camera is in the mud at times. You really do feel like you're accompanying these people through this absolutely horrific event, and sometimes the camera pans back. I thought it was very, very interestingly done. And
harrowing. It was, I think, the first press conference where I stood quiet. I was so moved by this film, and
I mean, we were sitting next to each other during that thing. I think we both were in tears, and And it's also one of those films which I think this is why it deserves, beyond the camera movements, which could have been very shaky cam, very disorientating and quite annoying after a while. It also did this wonderful thing of being able to not turn itself into something that was reactionary, not turn into something that would cheapen the event or in any way kind of belittle what these people went through. And at the same time, it doesn't venture too much into a political stance, because all it wants to do is just basically put you at the center of this horrific thing.
Yeah.
And I still get shakes. I'm actually like, it's a very strong film. Maybe not perfect. It is problematic in moments, but Alfred Bauer, I think it should have gone to Utoya. Yeah. Okay. Next one is the Silver Bear, the Grand Jury Prize that went to Mug. How would you say that?
Schwarz.
Yeah,
it
Mug.
was a Polish movie.
The Polish,
right.
About the one guy who's working at the construction site of the biggest Jesus statue worldwide, which isn't in Rio de Janeiro, but somewhere in the Polish Pampa. And he has an accident and his face is operated and he doesn't look like himself anymore. I quite liked the film. It has very dark, funny moments, and there's so many films, I have the feeling that I've forgotten it a little bit by now. This is a problem. Yeah. And when I saw it, I thought, fine movie. Okay, within the competition, one of the better.
Do you get the impression that in this year's competition, that seems to be my reaction to the majority of them, bar one or two exceptions, of just having seen it, and then obviously it's not particularly healthy, specifically for our schedule as film critics, to see so many films per day.
True.
But usually, and in past festivals, whether it be the Berlinale or other, they tend to linger more in my mind, whereas here there's just this kind of
I think I went to so many Berlinales. I think it was number 28 this year.
You can't use the V word. We're not using the V word. Not going to go.
For those, I'm going to have to say this at this point. For those who are watching and don't understand, I wrote an article in a publication called Ex Berliner where I used the term veteran film critic to describe my good friend here, and it did not go down well. And I meant it with admiration and love, and I am terribly sorry that this has become the V word. And I'm terribly sorry about that.
Okay, bye. I've lost track now. I wanted to say I went to so many competitions, and I can say I had worse. There were really films that were horrible, but it were also good films at the same time, so it was more into the extremes. This year it was all a little bit in the middle field. So rather beige.
Rather beige. This brings us to the granddaddy of them all, the Golden Bear. Okay, now here we go. This one will be interesting, which went to Touch Me Not by Adina Pintilli, who is a first-time woman filmmaker. And here we go. What did you... Yes.
I didn't see the movie. I saw the reviews. It only had a 1.5 average. So that's all I'm going to say.
I didn't see it, but because in the 27 Berlinales before, I think I managed to watch twice the Golden Bear winner.
Okay.
So it's the kiss of death when I watched the movie in the competition. It will never win.
Okay. Well, look,
so,
I saw it. I have to admit, I was quite won over by it. Now, here's the thing. Yes. Hear me out. Whoa there, Petal. Now, it's a film that is essentially about sex positivity and embracing difference, and it talks about the sex lives of. It follows one character in particular who cannot, hence the title, who does not like to be touched, and she goes to several therapists, sex therapists. And essentially what happens is that you follow several people throughout their particular therapies. And I thought it was a very original, very interesting film. And it's definitely one of the films that stands out the most in this year's competition, not because I think it's a good film, but because I think it's an original film, and it's a film that you would not have seen anywhere else but at the Berlinale.
Is that a good point?
I think so. I think that kind of originality is to be celebrated.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is a film. It's not. It has a niche appeal. I don't think that it will that it will strike a chord with a wider audience, but it is definitely a film which is original, which again and has such an interesting message. I have some very strong reservations with this film on the way it was filmed. The director Adina Pintilli shows up on screen many times, and there is this kind of these aspects where she's on screen and the camera looks at another camera staring at it. This kind of typical French Godard first year of cinema, the mise en abîme with a camera looking at a camera, and there's this well, very much so, and I have to admit I found it rather contrived, rather clumsy, and also very trite, the way that the film director kind of crowbarred herself into a narrative that didn't need her. That being said, the performances are fantastic. It blends docu-fiction very well. You're not quite sure where the documentary aspect stops and starts. It's an original choice, and as much as I would have rather seen Dovlatov or Utoya, July 22nd, win the Golden Bear, I think it's an interesting choice, and it does redeem things somewhat. It doesn't change my overall opinion that this year's festival has been one of the weakest in recent memories. All festivals combined, I think the general level of curation is quite frankly shocking. Because some of these films are so you wonder what they're doing in competition, and
I wonder how they got in the film festival.
Some films from the Panorama, Generations, or Forum section should have hands down been in competition instead of some of these films. So not a great year, but the winner is slightly deserved. I will stop speaking in a minute, but I will say Peter Bradshaw from The Guardian, I hate to have to name and shame, well he didn't, but he also, I'm going to actually quote him so I don't misquote anything, he wrote, in my mind, a very tone-deaf review of this, where he attacked the film for being silly and trite, and he also, I think, was sloppy was one of the terms as well. And the opening sentences of his review was saying, there was Trump, there's Brexit, now there's this. And I'm sorry, to compare, to even put things on an even keel with a film that celebrates sex positivity and a strong message about accepting some body dysmorphias and so on and so forth, to comparing that to a misogynistic cinnamon-tinted Pratt in the White House is I'm sorry, tone-deaf in the extreme. Okay. And I'm sorry, it's the champagne. However, he did say something in his article which I do agree with. He talks about the Berlin experience, so I will quote him on this. It is often an exasperatingly featureless festival that has terrific films hidden in its programs, films which are there to be discovered, by and large, not in its official competition. I can't argue with that. He goes on to say, it is a festival that somehow manages to promote the dullest and most valueless films in its lineup, leaving the good stuff to be revealed almost by accident. And as much as I dislike his review of Touch Me Not, the Golden Bear winner, I think he has a point in saying that it's a film festival that has far too many films, and I always put myself in the shoes of a film critic that would just kind of come to the festival by, just land there on the first day. You're faced with over 400 films. You don't know where to look. We're lucky enough to be living in Berlin. We're lucky enough to go to all the pre-screenings beforehand, so we can kind of weed out the gems. And it's impossible. It is an absolute fool's errand to try and to basically find your way through this program, which is so dizzyingly huge.
Kristen, as a person who's attended many festivals, tell us your opinion.
Well, I spoke to so many people about this point, and they all want so many movies. This is a fascinating point. They say, no, if we get a lesser amount of movies, we couldn't have access to so many interesting movies. So, well.
My counterpoint to that would be, if you do more of a curation, you will attract more filmmakers. You will attract people who feel like their projects are cocooned and properly projected and properly kind of nurtured into this kind of festival. Whereas here it becomes this graveyard of films that is, unfortunately, like Peter Bradshaw says, you discover the good ones by chance, and that's just not good enough. And if there were 100, say, films, if you were to really cut it by 3/4, you could still have these films projected more than once per day, and the quality would still be high. I think there is a fundamental problem with the Berlinale, is that there needs to be more curation, and when the panorama section and the forum section and the generation sections, which are by and large fantastic, they also need to be streamlined, but there is something wrong when your competition doesn't outshine the rest, or when they don't put your best foot forward. Yeah.
So maybe we can just look into the gems of the other sections.
Good. So, favourite films of the other sections, considering.
Okay, I'll start with a retrospective in the whole song, because I really liked it. It was about the Weimar cinema, and they choose not to screen the famous Metropolis, Dr. Caligari stuff, but the lesser known but very interesting films, so you could really go there and find films. And I was really surprised to see at the same movies that were done nearly at the same time so differently. So you had the classic silent movie with big gestures and dark coal around the eyes.
Brilliant.
But you also had a rather modernist, really realistic played film, so it was quite exciting.
Okay. So your standout among the retrospectives would be?
That would be oh my god, I've forgotten the title.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just because I'm quite curious as well, so I'd love to see some.
I don't know so much about Weimar public films.
So it was something karate. I have to check it again. Okay. Sorry about that.
Well, we'll list it later. So I'll contact Kristen and list it later under the video.
Yeah, I have to check.
Any other ones in?
I liked the generation movies. I loved the final one, which should have been in the competition. That was a German movie, and usually I'm not the biggest fan of German movies, so this is really something. 303. Was excellent. It was my last movie of the Berlinale, so I left the festival with a smile on my lips, because it's such a fine movie, and
okay,
it was really great.
Right, so that's 303. Yes, okay, brilliant.
Any more?
Yes, I also liked Dovladov about
From the competition.
and Madeleine's Madeleine, and
Okay.
And the French one, Mes Provinciales, about film students in Paris.
And
it was fun to see, because they dreamt of being in Berlin.
Okay.
That was a fine one.
I was warned off of that movie. They told me don't even bother, Breck, it's not for you. I said, okay.
Maybe, it's not for you.
No,
I think so. It's in black and white, it's a little bit old-fashioned, but it reminded me of my student times in France, so I liked it.
Okay, so that's Mes Provençales.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Brilliant. Breck.
I'm easy. So my favorite movie, well, actually it wasn't a movie, it was a TV show, Shockwaves, the Swiss TV show. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty good. And I like the Brazilian film with Tranny Fag. I like that documentary. For some weird reason, it was far from perfect, but it raised a lot of questions that you don't really see in Brazilian cinema about race, class, and gender. So those were my two favorites. Before we move on, let me get...
We're still on the...
we're still on quality.
Okay, so David, what were your favorite two films?
Beyond Utoya and stuff like that, I have to admit Madeleine's Madeleine by Josephine Decker.
Nice.
I thought as a portrait of youth and theatre and also mental illness, It was a real it was fantastic.
And it's wonderfully played
Yeah.
by the main actress.
Well, the main actress is absolutely terrific. It is a career-making turn, and the fact that I think it's her first main role in a feature, and she is stunning in just every way, absolutely brilliant. So that Madeline's Madeline is definitely a highlight for me. I mean, having seen so many films.
How many films did you see?
Nearly 80. This one, but obviously. With the pre-screenings and everything, I'm struggling. I mean, there are things that I really much enjoyed, like The Green Fog by Guy Maddin. I think Tinta Bruta, which won the Teddy Award, Heart Paint, is a fantastic film. It's really, really strong. I still have to champion Fake Tattoos by Pascal Plante.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
That's Generations.
That's Generations as well. It's a film. It's a boy meets girl, and it's a coming of age story. Yeah, but it's one of those beautiful films that actually sidesteps some of the classical tropes that you would associate with that kind of genre of film. It's a very romantic film on its own terms. And it's shot by someone who clearly he's a cinephile. He also has a cineblog, and Pascal Plante. I interviewed him. He's a very eloquent, just fantastic first-time filmmaker who also edited and did the sound design for the film, especially in a film that is
a real auteur.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he wrote the script, directed, and the sound design is fantastic, especially for a film in which music features so prominently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really rate it. I think it's not going to change anything, but it really does bring something new to the table, and I was completely won over by it, and it left me, well, wondering if somebody wasn't chopping onions in the movie theatre. So yeah, I got a bit teary. Worst films, ladies and gentlemen.
Who starts?
I start.
You do indeed.
I start because it was one of the first I saw on these pre-screenings, and I really looked forward to it. Was Yacho. I mean, Aliens, Japanese movie. I love it, but it was boring. Totally. I mean, the most stupid aliens ever, and I didn't care for it. And you laughed, I know. Yeah, he laughed after 10 minutes. You started.
No. Give it its due. I think you left after a good half hour. Like you gave it its chance, and I respect you for it.
Yeah. Then you started looking at the watch after 5 minutes. And, okay, Yacho, real big disappointment, and also the Swedish competition entry, Real Estate. I don't know exactly why, but I hated this movie.
But no one liked that movie.
Yeah, it was. Well, why should I care about this main protagonist? I didn't understand it, and so I really, really got aggressive.
Okay.
Totally accurate, yeah.
What do you like when you're aggressive?
Oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Okay.
One day you will see.
Good God.
So,
Not.
and then there were some disappointments. Not really hated, but I was so disappointed by the bookstore and the Happy Prince, because I looked forward to these movies. And a movie about a bookstore, a movie about Oscar Wilde. These are things I love. But they were all like BBC afternoon, Sunday, tea drinking movies.
Hey now, hey.
The British is coming out.
Yeah, so not what I expected and hoped for.
Really? I know, because you were looking forward to seeing the Happy Prince.
Yeah, I was. And
Was what's his name?
Rupert Everett.
Rupert Everett. Was he any good in it?
Yes, he's doing fine. Everything is fine. It's it's not the actors. It's maybe the script is a little bit clumsy, and it's a little bit. He really loves the story. He really wanted to do it, but it's a little bit like, look at me doing Oscar Wilde.
Right.
No.
And I don't go for the whole matter for the arts thing, so...
Okay. Breck, your least favourite one?
Oh, that's easy. Human, Space, Time, and Human, the Korean film.
Yeah, Kim Ki-duk.
Oh my God, I text her after I left the movie, I think after 35 minutes. Don't even watch it on Amazon or YouTube or whatever. It was just awful. It was insulting.
Yeah.
It was really bad. I mean, it was amateurish. It was juvenile.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that was really it. I mean, that movie was just offensive to me. That movie stood out.
I'm with you. I mean, this is the new film by Kim Ki-duk, and it's also a baffling misfire on the behalf of the Berlinale, who basically they said in the first place that this was going to be the year of Me Too, where they were passing on certain films and certain filmmakers because of the current climate and of all of that. And Kim Ki-duk was found guilty and charged of hitting one of his lead actresses in, I think it was the 2003 or 2013 or 2014 film Mobius, and also some sexual allegations against him. This film, I agree, I think the term juvenile is perfect. I mean, I think I wrote in my review for this film, my written review, that on an allegorical level, he is barely functioning above the level of a full nappy.
Yeah.
Because it is so childish, and it's been seen before. It's redundant and morally, in some cases, indefensible. And I love to be shocked. I love some good violence, but in this case, it was the equivalent of seeing Snowpiercer with the good parts taken out. It was genuinely one of the worst experiences, no, not the worst, but one of the worst experiences in a cinema that I've had in a very, very long time. Because it lowered the level, the standard of the Berlinale, because way down. Way
Yeah, it was really.
Yeah, you didn't see it.
No, after you
you've saved yourself.
Nope.
You've saved yourself.
All right, hold on. Now we prepare ourselves. This thing, you better get your.
Permission to rant.
Yes.
So I wasn't here. Thank God. I was in Milan. And there was a
I was
certain.
in another movie.
Thank God.
Tonight.
So someone saw a
Up to
documentary.
him.
What was the movie? The documentary on Ed Sheeran.
Songwriter.
Songwriter. No, that's fine. You move away. You move at a safe distance. Right, here goes. That's right. You cower. Cower away, my little chickens. Now, the thing is that I am a big fan of music documentaries over the years, and I'm just talking in the last 18 years, if we're going just from 2000s. You have films like 20 Feet from Stardom. You have films like Mistaken for Strangers, the awesome The National documentary, which was filmed by the brother of the lead singer, Matt Berninger. Amy, you have The Filth and the Fury, One More Time with Feeling, the Nick Cave documentary. I may as well be talking to right. Some Kind of Monster, the Metallica documentary. Now, this year at the Berlinale, there have been music docs which have done very, very well, like the one that you mentioned, Big Travesti. Shut Up and Play the Piano.
Shut Up and Play the Piano.
And we both interviewed.
Good movie.
Very good film, very entertaining, and just a kind of a feel-good and original in parts movie about Chili Gonzalez, filmed by Philip, what was his name, Jedike? Yeah, I'm mispronouncing, and I do apologise. Very nice chap, and we both interviewed him. Right. He was fantastic, very very nice guy. Now, songwriter. This absolute monstrosity is the documentary about Ed Sheeran. Now, no one was under any misapprehensions. We all knew it wasn't going to be that great. That being said, this film was screened in the competition special selection. Yes,
yeah,
and it took up the same slot that Logan had last year, which was a very, very good superhero film, which was fantastic in its own way, and is actually nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. Completely deserved. This is filmed by Ed Sheeran's cousin, Murray Cummings, or I don't want to remember his name, it's so bad. It is a small tiny film. It's not even a film. It is a sycophantic work of naffness.
That's a word I've never heard before.
Now, here's what it is. It is essentially this camera that follows Ed Sheeran around before he releases his last album, which is called Divide. Now, I went to the screening of this, and I admitted to Paul, who I went with, one of my friends and colleagues, I had to admit that I didn't mind Ed Sheeran. I don't particularly like his music, but he's done a few catchy tunes. Now, he did one with Rudimental called Lay It All On Me, A-Team, there was another one. Anyway, no, I don't mind it, it's good, very decent earworms. But the thing is, as a good music documentary will do, is that afterwards, if it succeeded, you'll want to go out and find out more about the artist. You'll want to listen to more of the artist. Now, I went to the screener of Shut Up and Play the Piano, and people afterwards were going, hey, this Chili Gonzalez chap, I'm going to check out his music. He sounds good. The solo piano, this kind of absolute hero and stage performer, which, I mean, he has kind of charisma to give out. Ed Sheeran is a charisma vacuum. He is patient zero of vanilla. Now, I'm serious, and it really kills me because I genuinely thought that this documentary would have something to say about the music industry, about the fact that Ed Sheeran is one of those rare characters at the moment who still manages to sell CDs. Mm-hmm. Nowadays it's all digital. I still buy records, I still buy CDs, but the point is him, Taylor Swift and a handful of others still manage to sell to the actual physical object. And it could be very interesting to see this character who is just, he doesn't have the physique necessarily of your average pop star, and that's fine, that's great in fact. It could have been fascinating.
He's never used a gym membership. No.
Well, I don't hold that against him. What I do hold against him is this offensively bland documentary where you see him on holidays, having some fun, writing a few songs like the songs which now I can only describe as dickless mewlings of a man who cannot write, and for some reason he's inexplicably popular. No, please, take more distance. I will happily add another layer to this. I mean, and also, I'm sorry.
We're going to end in a minute.
We're not going to, don't you dare say to me. Now, he had around him, you see, what is fascinating about the documentary, and it's a completely humourless affair, it has no kind of distance, it takes itself so seriously. It is the equivalent of a DVD that you would buy in the deluxe edition of the album, tailored exclusively for fans, and it has nothing to say. In fact, the only thing I saw was just this hatred that I have for the music industry now, because he is followed by this talentless, sycophantic entourage who everything he does, when he's strumming along on his little guitar, every single time he does something, oh Ed, you're great, oh my god, you're absolutely fantastic, you're just, and the worst of them is his producer or something like that, this schlubby, permed twat who genuinely walks about with like torn t-shirts everywhere, and he's just like, oh yeah, I mean, I have more talent in my pinky than that man has. He has the IQ of a pencil, and that whole film left me angry. It also left me angry, and this will be my finishing note, and I'm sorry I'm ranting, but I'm a bag of nerves right now because of this fucking film, is that Dieter Kostlik and his lot thought that this was a good idea. He actually made a little joke about it at the awards ceremony for the Bears.
Oh yeah.
Where he was just like, oh yeah, he actually name-checked the Ed Sheeran documentary above all other films. And my colleague and friend Paul actually said that the film, and no truer word has been said, it's a betrayal of trust. Because essentially you expect, especially from competition or competition special, for these films to be curated, for these films to be handpicked specifically because they are good and they want to be they are special and they want to be seen at the Berlinale. What happened here was just this cynical, can we get Ed Sheeran on the red carpet? Yeah, but bring him on, that's fine. I mean, the film is a fucking trash fire, but no, please, bring him on the red carpet, it'll be fine. We'll give him the royal treatment. It was abysmal, and I am embarrassed for anyone who thought that this was a good idea.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. How can I be okay?
Okay.
No, come back to me. I've
so
calmed
that
down.
way,
I've
okay.
calmed down. No, thank you. I'm very sorry. That must have been very painful to watch. But I mean, this is.
I'm not going to edit anything. I'm just going to
Someone
let
is
it
still
go.
watching.
I'm not well. I'm genuine. If you've tuned out, anyone in their right minds would have. But I'm sorry. Just no.
The scary part is I'm not going to edit any of this. I'm just going to let it go.
Please do.
Let it go.
Oh my god.
Oh, I think it's so entertaining. So that was it for the Berlinale. Next year, the festival starts the 7th of February.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody one last thing. What change would you like to see at the Berlinale?
What
Kristen,
change?
yeah, what would you like to see different? What would you like the Berlinale people to do differently next year?
Oh, less beige movies.
Oh, that's a critique. I would like to see one thing. Oh God, water in the press room.
Coffee at the screenings, please.
Oh yeah, coffee at the screenings. That's two things. Okay, coffee at the pre-screenings and water in the press room would change.
In fact, Kristen, you had something very interesting to say about the Berlinale as a festival that doesn't necessarily treat its journalists very well. Do you, I mean, you know, the fact that there's no water or anything like that, that it's not necessarily, and there are no plugs or electricity, I mean, it's
it looks a little bit like university.
Right.
Yeah.
A cheap university.
Yeah. I personally would like to see a selection that is less gormlessly curated. So something where they put their best foot forward. And there were, for all my rantings and stuff like that, there were some good films. They were just few and far between this year, and it would be lovely because Dieter Koslik is leaving soon. It's about next year.
Yeah.
This is last year, and I am quite frankly staggered that this is a man who knew he was leaving in 2 years' time this year. Why he didn't pull out all the stops. This has been a very forgettable year, let's face facts. It's not been forgettable because I've had, and I do say this honestly, the absolute pleasure of spending it with you two.
Yeah, so it was a pleasure. It was a very special Berlinale.
Brett's dying inside right now because of that rant that I just did. But, sorry. But the thing is that it would just be nice if just kind of put it back on track with Cannes and Venice and Sundance and all these festivals that you know have either maintained their stature or seem to be gaining momentum, and the Berlinale seems to be falling behind somewhat. It was weaker than last year, and it just needs to be
definitely weaker than last year.
So I really hope for Dieter Koslik that he goes next year with a bang.
Yes.
As we say, yeah, great, because he did a lot of good stuff during the last years. He brought the Berlinale back in the media as a glamour factor, etc., etc. And so I really hope that we can say we had a nice Berlinale next year.
Yeah, and one that is memorable, because I think I speak for all of us, is that this one, aside from the experiences we've had around the Berlinale, will not linger in memory. Anyway, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. See you next year. Cheers.
Bye.
And should we maybe thank our lovely
We'll do it in the last one.
Okay, fine, fair enough. Well, you need to edit that out then. Like a lot of things.
Oh no, I'm gonna leave that.